On today's episode of the Broadway Shuffle, we hand out our first annual Broadway Shuffle Football Awards. That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. All right, welcome to episode 43 of the Broadway Shuffle, Shufflers. We hope all of you are having a great week, and we've got a special episode for you guys today with Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler. I'm Brennan, and we are handing out our football awards. This is our first annual Broadway Shuffle award show. We've got some fun ones lined up for you guys, some serious, and then we'll also look back at what 2024 was, give an overall assessment, and look forward to 2025. So Clayton, Conrad, Zyler, how you guys doing? And what award are we most looking forward to? And anything you can give the audience here as we get ready for our first ever award show?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to hand out the Devon Drew of the Year award. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm pretty excited to see who takes that one home.
I'm excited for the Micah Hudson of the Year award, man. I have no idea who's going to get that. It's a real toss-up, so we'll see who comes home with that award.
Yep.
Yeah, the Tommy Tuberville of the Year as well is going to be a real nail biter. So whoever gets that honor, I'm excited to see how they respond to that once in a lifetime type of honor.
Yeah, it's a big deal to be the Tommy Tuberville of the Year. We'll get into that and what that means in a second. But first, we hope that you enjoy our content. If you do, feel free to like this video and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at the Broadway Shuffle. You can click the button in the top right-hand corner to subscribe. We so appreciate you checking us out and look forward to you joining our journey into 2025. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, we appreciate that as well. We would love for you to follow us so you don't miss an episode of the Broadway Shuffle. So, all right, let's get right into our award show. They kind of teased a little bit of a couple of awards. We're also going to go over your defensive MVP, your offensive MVP. We've got the Best Player of the Year award lined up, our Best Guest of the Year. We've had a lot of great guests on the show. And then we did something this year a little special in the Broadway Shuffle where we had the Kool-Aid Factory. We all tend to drink the hype going into the offseason. 2024 portal season's been no different, but we released a flavor of the week each week. Some of them very good, turned out well. The Kool-Aid Factory was humming. Others came out a little icky. We've had some that we had to recall back, and we've got some bad flavors of the year as well. And then we like to keep ourselves accountable on the Broadway Shuffle. It's the least we can do. We've got the worst take of the year from yours truly, but we also like to pat ourselves on the back a time or two, and we have the best take of the year as well. So, all right, are we ready to start with the first award of the year? Somebody went ahead and teased this, but Conrad Mills, without further ado, the Micah Hudson of the Year award. I'll let you take it from here.
Well, thank you, Brennan, for throwing it over to me. You know, our listeners have been through a lot with us, and one of the things that we've been through this year is the Micah Hudson saga, from signing the highest-rated recruit in Texas Tech football history to an Aggie now. So this award is really to remember someone who had a lot of potential, who never really did anything for you at all, 8 catches and leaves, and we hope you don't succeed anywhere unless you're at Texas Tech. So this is an award that I think is personal to me, personal to Clayton and Zyler and Brennan, and so this is an important award for the Broadway Shuffle, and it's our first award. So I'd like to go to Brennan first with our first nominee for this award. Brennan, who would you like to put forward to receive the Micah Hudson of the Year award?
This is going to sound crazy, and I don't know, if this guy deserves it or not, but my first nominee for the Micah Hudson Award is Micah Hudson. I just feel like he's fitting for the award. I'm going to nominate the dude whose name is on the trophy. I think Micah Hudson is your Micah Hudson of the Year, but Zyler, Clayton, you guys might have a different opinion.
That's definitely a strong front runner right off the bat.
Well, Brendan, let me make a strong case for him. Convince me as the distributor of this prestigious award. Why should Micah win his own award?
Yeah, I mean, it might be pretty clear, but I think ultimately, in all seriousness, Micah Hudson was probably your most hyped player that you've ever had at Texas Tech. Even Joey McGuire said so last offseason. I think we were all very excited to see him play. Ultimately, it did not work out, and I hope he does not succeed now wearing the gross color of maroon. I don't want to wish any ill will on him personally, but as a football player, I do not wish him much success at A&M. Therefore, unless he were to enter the portal again and Cody Campbell would wish to bring his talents back to Lubbock, I do not see a reason for him to be rooted for. So because he ultimately didn't work out and I don't want to see him do well at A&M, I'm going to say that Micah Hudson probably fits every single piece of criteria needed to win the Micah Hudson of the Year award.
Compelling case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Clayton, who do you have? Who's your nominee?
Yeah, I'll nominate my guy next. So I know this is the 2024 Tech Football Awards, but I could not see this category award and not nominate this guy. He actually has not played for Tech in over 10 years, but I am nominating Mike Mitchell, former linebacker. He transferred from Ohio State to Texas Tech in 2014, I believe. And at the time, he got so much hype. People thought he was going to be like our defensive savior. I believe he was like a top 150 prospect out of high school, and then literally did nothing for Tech ever. I actually don't know if he finished his career at Tech or if he's transferred. So my nominee for the Micah Hudson Award is former linebacker Mike Mitchell.
That's a good one.
It's very solid. Clayton, my nominee, and Conrad, I guess more importantly, my nominee is Ty Buchanan, the USC transfer offensive lineman who you thought was going to be hopefully your savior at left tackle. Ultimately, things didn't work out, and he'll now be playing with a conference rival. But my nominee is Ty Buchanan, offensive tackle for Texas Tech.
Well, guys, I mean, these are all compelling. I'm impressed at each nominee. I think each nominee brings something unique to the table. But as the inaugural award named after one of the nominees, this award has to go to Micah Hudson, former 5-star receiver, now at Texas A&M. Micah is the award winner this year. Micah, if you're listening to the show, make sure to subscribe first and foremost. Second, you can be expecting your trophy in the mail. We will deliver it to Kyle Field, maybe by carrier pigeon, and we'll have that to you early next week. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you all for your nominees, and to the nominees, thank you for bringing your talents to the table and being considered for this prestigious award.
Yeah, we're so gracious here that we're giving Micah an award, sending him off from Texas Tech. We appreciate your time, and here's an award for your efforts. So, all right, let's get to a serious one now. First, Defensive MVP award from the Broadway Shuffle. Guys, pretty self-explanatory here. Best player on defense, though the defense wasn't exactly what we hoped it would be as a total unit, you still had some studs on that side of the ball. Zyler, I'll go to you first for your nominee. Who would you like to nominate for defensive MVP?
Yeah, I think for me, defensive MVP is going to be CJ Baskerville. He played all 13 games for you. That's something that not many players in your secondary really could do this year. He was third on the team in total tackles. He had 78 of them. He had 3 tackles for loss. He also led your team with interceptions with 4. He also had 4 pass breakups. Very, very valuable member for your secondary on a group that was really, really beat up. And continuity and experience and leadership was really important back there. And I thought he did a great job for you in the backfield.
That is a great nominee and a fan of the show. CJ's been on the show. Maybe he's a 2-time award winner. We'll have to see. He was a guest.
We'll have to see.
Clayton.
Yeah, my nominee is Braylon Lux, cornerback. Mine's more so not what he did, necessarily in the stats, but, he missed, I can't remember exactly how many, but like 3 or 4 games this year. And in the games that he missed, our defense was even worse than it was with him. And so obviously, he didn't make all the difference in the world. No one player can, but I thought he had a good year, especially in the Arizona game against Ted McMillan, most talented wide receiver you played all year. So yeah, he's my nominee, Braylon Lux.
Another great one. All right, Conrad, that leaves you. Who are you nominating for defensive MVP?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacob Rodriguez, number 10 linebacker. Big fan of the show. He's been on the show before. If you haven't seen his interview, go check it out. He had 78 tackles this year, 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. Really was the glue that held so much together for this unit that definitely underachieved this year, but he was a very, very bright spot for you. And I'm so happy he's coming back for next year and can't wait to see him get even better. So Jacob Rodriguez is my defensive MVP nominee for 2024.
Those are all great nominees, all great dudes. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate one, and that's Braylon Lux, because he was not on the show. And because he was not on the show, you cannot win this award. The other two were. So, compelling case for Jacob, compelling case for CJ, but the defensive MVP of 2024 for Texas Tech Athletics is CJ Baskerville. CJ gets the win. He had one of the coolest interceptions I've seen a Texas Tech player in a long time. He was consistent for you. He was a leader, and he is just a great dude. We love CJ on the show. He was our first ever guest, actually, on the Broadway Shuffle. So maybe I'm a little biased, though we loved having Jacob on as well. CJ Baskerville is your defensive MVP for 2024.
Awesome job, Brennan. Thanks. We're going to transition real seamlessly into our offensive MVP. Very simple category. Who was the most valuable player for Texas Tech on the offensive side of the ball this year? Clayton, I'll go to you first for your nominee.
Yeah, mine was pretty easy for me. My nominee is Josh Kelly, wide receiver. He did so much for your offense. He was a type of receiver that you haven't had in a long time, especially with the ball in his hands. He was chain mover. I feel like every third down, Barron was looking for him. He made some incredibly clutch plays, specifically in the Iowa State game that we'll get to later. The 1,000-yard receiver. Cannot remember the last time that happened. I believe we said it was like 2018 or something.
Antoine Wesley,
so yeah.
I believe.
Yes, Antoine Wesley. So yeah, my nominee is wide receiver Josh Kelly.
Awesome. Brennan, I'll go to you for your nominee.
Yeah, man, I really don't see how it couldn't be this guy, but another great fan and former guest of the Broadway Shuffle, Taj Brooks. Just what, not outside of how he just played and what he represented for your team this season, choosing to come back, being an ultimate leader. We've heard the impact he's made on the running back room, just, how close he was to the fellas on the offensive side of the ball, and what a leader he was for your university. I'm going to nominate Taj Brooks. Becoming the Texas Tech all-time leading rusher is a special accomplishment as well. So Taj Brooks is my nominee for offensive MVP.
Conrad, who is your nominee?
Yeah, my nominee is somebody that has not been on the show yet, although he is more than welcome to come on at any time he would like. It's your starting quarterback. His name is Barron Morton. He threw for 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,300 yards, had a 63% completion percentage, started all 12 games for you at quarterback. First person to do that since, I believe, 2017 and Nick Shimanek, or Patrick Mahomes in 2016. I can't remember, one of the two. It's been a long time either way. He's played really well for you, showed up big in the Iowa State game, played really well against Oklahoma State. I mean, he really is. If you don't have a quarterback on your roster, if you don't have a quarterback stay healthy, that you can trust in and believe in, and that you can trust to make plays when you need them, you're not going to do very much this year. And I think part of our offensive success, a large part of our offensive success this year, was due to Barron Morton being your starting quarterback and being able to play in all 12 games, and can't wait to see what he does in 2025.
Man, those are all really interesting nominees. I think you could make a pretty strong case for any of those. I think I'm going to go in a different direction than maybe what you would think. I'm actually going to go Barron Morton as your MVP this year.
Wow.
First QB to play all 12 games. I think that really helped your season a lot. I think it pushed you kind of over the edge and helped you make progress. That's no disrespect to Taj or Kelly. I think those were extremely valuable players, and they've got the brighter NFL prospects, and I think they are ultimately the better players. But I think Barron was just really valuable for what your team was able to accomplish this year. So that being said, Barron will be my MVP for the year.
How much did Conrad Venmo you to pick Barron Morton to win the offensive MVP?
Listen, there were only 3 zeros, and it's the rest is not important. So take that for what it's worth.
No surprise, Conrad picked Barron Morton there, but congrats to Barron. He's deserving. He's deserving.
Yep. I'll transition over to Clayton. No, it'll be Thrill Hammond.
Yeah, it'll be
Thrill
Thrill Will.
Hammond.
So this
Okay.
next category, I'm going to pass over to Clayton, and all four of us have nominees, but Clayton will be the ultimate decider. So Clayton, I'll let you introduce the category.
Yeah, so this next category is one that is near and dear to my heart, my favorite segment on this show, the weekly segment, Tommy Tuberville of the week, although this one is of the year. All of these players or people, organizations have been nominated for one of these throughout the year. So I'll say my nomination for last, so I'll go to Zyler. You can start with your nomination.
Yeah, this is a player or a candidate that really kind of simmered in the middle all year, but then really, really came on strong during bowl season. My candidate for Tommy Tuberville of the year is going to be Lane Kiffin, the head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels. I have never seen anybody more proud of their conference than Lane Kiffin. He was rooting on Penn State for whatever reason because he hates the little guy. An absolute fraud. I wish him nothing but failure unless he comes to Texas Tech, and then I'll be a huge fan. But Lane Kiffin is an absolute fraudulent coach when it comes to supporting other teams. Like, can you imagine getting online and saying, I am rooting so hard for TCU in the playoffs? Or I just don't get it. I don't get why you do those things. But yeah, that's my nominee for Tommy Tuberville of the year, Lane Kiffin with a strong finish.
That's a great one. You
That's
made
a
a good
good
case. Conrad, who's yours?
Yeah, so mine isn't necessarily an individual, although there is one leader of this committee, I guess you could say. But mine is the College Football Playoff Committee. Ward Manuel is an individual that is the chair of the committee. He's the director of athletics at the University of Michigan. This committee has gotten some things wrong, gotten some things right. But just as an example, they were trying. I believe in my heart of hearts that they were trying to put another SEC team in, and because of their intentions, because of what I am discerning they thought without actually ever having talked to any of them, and because they said that we look and watch what's on the field, we don't really look at any metrics or anything like that. That my Tommy Tuberville of the year has to be the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. I mean, I could be on the committee. I have just as much qualifications as any of those people. So the College Football Playoff Committee, you are my Tommy Tuberville nominee of the year.
Very nice.
Nice. It's another strong candidate. Brennan?
All right. I feel like you guys know where I'm going with this one, but there's a former quarterback for Texas Tech University that was playing in, I think, his 13th season of college football this year in a Big 12 rival that we were actually hoping you would get to face. And that gentleman's name is Alan Bowman. Nothing against Alan Bowman as a gentleman. I'm sure he is a great guy. But as a football player, the dude had what we can call an up and down career. I think Oklahoma State came into this year with the expectation to win the Big 12. Alan Bowman was the starting quarterback for said Cowboys, and those Cowboys went 3-9 and 0-8 or 0-9 in conference play. Alan Bowman leading the charge there had a frustrating season. I think he threw equally as many interceptions as touchdowns. If not, he had one more touchdown than interception because of that. And really as a whole, I could go Oklahoma State here, but I'm going to go because Bowman was a former player for you. Alan Bowman as the Tommy Tuberville of the year. I believe he was on there 2 to 3 times this year. If you need any more leverage, Clayton, to pick this guy, he's been there multiple times. So I'm going to say Alan Bowman is my nominee.
That's a great candidate as well. So yeah, my candidate for this award is one that, I feel like I talked about weekly. I'm definitely their biggest hater on the show and possibly their biggest hater on planet Earth. And my nominee is Kansas football. They had so much hype coming into the year, people picking them as a playoff dark horse, a Big 12 championship contender. And the train just went off the tracks very soon. They lost to UNLV at home in the non-conference to start the year. They did have some nice upsets. They beat, Iowa State, Colorado, but overall going 5-7 is not what they wanted to do. Jalen Daniels had one of the worst first halves of this season of any Big 12 QB. And so I love that my preseason take that Kansas was not going to be good came to fruition. So my nominee is Kansas football. So that being said, the award winner for this, as much as I want to choose Lane Kiffin, I can't see how I can not choose Alan Bowman. I mean,
let's go.
Instead, leading them to a winless conference record. He's a 7th-year senior. He had teammates that were in 7th grade whenever he started college football, and proceeded to not win a single conference game. So my winner has to be Alan Bowman.
That's a great selection.
Yeah.
And I think we all would have probably voted for Allen there too. We're going to transition. Next category is the Devon Drew Play of the Year. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Texas Tech squared off with Kansas State in the final game of the Matt Wells career, and Devon Drew got a hands to the face on 3rd and 30 and ultimately gave Kansas State the ball back, and they ended up winning the game. That single play ultimately lent itself to Matt Wells getting fired, Joey McGuire getting hired, and you signing the #1 transfer portal class in 2025. So the Devon Drew Play of the Year is something that felt really bad in the moment, but ultimately turned into being a good thing. So we actually only have one nominee. It's
So
Macho.
obvious.
It's universal.
Yeah, it's Macho Stevenson when he gave up that touchdown to Eric McAllister in the TCU game. That directly led to the NIL infusion that you received and led to you signing the #1 transfer portal class in the country. So, without further ado, Macho Stevenson, congrats on winning your Devon Drew Play of the Year. We know you're very proud, and we'll move into our Best Play of the Year award.
Hey, that's a great award right there. Just quick, easy, one nominee, unanimous voter. Congrats, Macho.
Yep.
All right, Conrad, you've got our Best Play of the Year award.
Yeah, so there were a lot of good plays this year. I mean, there were a lot of high moments, a lot of touchdowns. You scored a lot of points. You had a top 20 offense in the country, I believe. You on the defensive side of the ball, you didn't necessarily have that great of a defensive unit as a whole statistically, but even they still made some fantastic plays at points in the year. So just we need to remember this season fondly, not only for the wins, but also for the individual plays. I know you were probably on the edge of your seat during some of these games, and you stood up and screamed like every single one of us did if we weren't at the game. So just to remember some of those plays fondly, I'd like to go to Clayton first with his initial nominee.
Yeah, my nominee for this category is Josh Kelly's diving catch on 4th down on that final drive against Iowa State that led to you getting that upset win. Top 15 road win. One of the biggest wins in the McGuire era, if not the biggest, like we discussed earlier this year. That does not happen without that catch, which was not an easy catch at all. And I feel like if you just look at the season as a whole, I know it's only one game, but being 7-5 versus 8-4, crossing that threshold that we hadn't done since 2009, I feel like that catch was just such a huge part and like continuing the upward momentum of McGuire's tenure. So my nominee is Josh Kelly's catch versus Iowa State.
Nice.
It's a good one.
That's a great play. That's overlooked in that game comparatively to what ended up happening. Without that play, you don't win that game. So I tend to forget that catch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Brennan,
my
you can go
nominee.
next. Or
Oh,
Zyler,
Brennan,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Z. Just hold off one second, man. Let me go. My nominee is the gentleman who I believe was nominated for your Offensive Player of the Year but did not win. I'm going to stick with him, Taj Brooks. Taj had a very specific play on a 4th down against Oklahoma State that I thought was huge. That game could have gone either way. You needed all of 56 points that you got. Unfortunately, Taj was a big component of that. Also catching a touchdown play, which I thought could have been a nominee as well, coming out of the seam to catch a pass from there and there in the end zone. But I'm going to go with the 4th down run against Oklahoma State that led to a score and a high five as well. I thought it was excellent. It was one of Taj's favorite plays, as he said during our time with him on our show. So I'm going to go Taj Brooks' 4th down run against Oklahoma State as my Play of the Year nominee.
Nice. I think that's a good one. Mine is going to be the Jacob Rodriguez punch out against Tedero McMillan against Arizona. Didn't ultimately clinch the game, but essentially, you got to above 95% win probability when you recovered that fumble. So I thought that was a huge play. It felt like the wheels had kind of fallen off a little bit and that Arizona was going to drive down and score. And Jacob Rodriguez makes a huge play. And ultimately, you end up winning that game. So that will be my nominee is the Jacob Rodriguez punch out on Tedero McMillan.
First round pick right there, too.
Yep.
Yeah. These are also great, and there's so many more. I mean, I didn't have a nominee, but I can think of probably 5-10 plays that I'd put on there as well. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Kelly's 4th down catch against Iowa State on the road, pouring rain, top 12th team in the country. I think they were 11th at the time. That really did play a huge part in you winning that game. And again, that's probably the best win in Joey's tenure. And so because it's the best win, in my opinion, got to go with that. But also Jacob Rodriguez with that punch out against Tetaroa, and then Taj's Jalen Conyers high five play that he had. I mean, those are all great plays, but I'm going to have to give the best play award to Josh Kelly in that 4th down conversion against Iowa State.
Congratulations, Josh Kelly, winning an award on this show as well after getting overlooked, might I say, for offensive MVP.
Yes.
But
I
digress. Really. Okay, well, Best Guest of the Year award. We on the Broadway Shuffle started some interview specials this fall. We had some great guests, but we're going to stick specifically to football. So unfortunately, Mr. Robert Giovanetti, though we enjoyed our time with you, you are not on the list of nominees, and Avery Benson will also not be able. So I'm going to let you guys nominate any of the football players we have had on, but no Avery or Robert allowed for this segment specifically. Though, please feel free to go check out those interviews, as they were a ton of fun and very insightful into a different I'll call it world of Texas Tech athletics for Robert, and then obviously looking back at some time of basketball with Avery. But Zyler, I'll go to you first. Who is your nominee for our Best Guest of the Year award?
Yeah, they say your first is always your best, so I'm going to go with CJ. He was our first interview, and I thought he did an excellent job. He was very accommodating for us on our myriad questions and kind of confusion and nervousness on stuff like that. So CJ, I thought was a great interview, and he will be my nominee for Best Guest of the Year.
Conrad?
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob, just a stand-up guy. I mean, he's what better leader could you ask for to have on this team coming back next year? Just a very, very kind guy. Was very honest and real with us, and really appreciated all his answers, and just really enjoyed talking to him, and just really encouraged by how kind he is and how much he cares about Texas Tech, and is looking forward to next year. So Jacob Rodriguez would have to be my my candidate, not only for what he does on the field, but also for how gracious he was with us as well.
Clayton, I guess that leaves one other guy to, unfortunately, leave the suspense outside. But go ahead and share who your favorite, who your nominee will be.
Yeah, my nominee is Taj. It's funny, I actually wasn't even on that episode, but I listened to it on Spotify. I had to make sure it got its rightful and deserved recognition. So I will nominate Taj Brooks as the Guest of the Year.
I like it, man. Yeah, we missed you on that episode, and yeah, appreciate you listening on Spotify. I know we try to hype up the YouTube as much as we can, because that's where we try to release most of our content. But it's always great to hear people, even our own, are listening on Spotify. So, all right, man, am I really going to do this? I've already picked CJ to win one. CJ Baskerville is our first ever 2-time winner at the Broadway Shuffle Annual Football Awards. How can you not pick CJ, man? I mean, I loved having on Taj and Jacob, and they were great. But CJ being our first ever interview, the first guy to reach out, the first guy to, I think, football player to follow us on everything and then respond and come on the show. And during our bye week, after he had the crazy interception against Arizona to seal the win, CJ was just such a class act, man. Great guy. We're going to miss him a lot. We look forward to talking to him again soon. But CJ Baskerville is our Best Guest of the Year award. Go check out that episode if you haven't yet. It's way back, I think, episode 14, but you can learn a lot about him and who he is outside of football, which is great. So congratulations, CJ, on being our first ever 2-time winner. And Conrad, I believe you're up next as we segue into what I am most looking forward to of this award.
I apologize to all of our listeners and viewers for that pause. I was just contemplating how to introduce this next segment, because there's a lot of baggage that comes with this, good and bad. We're going to transition maybe a little bit away from the football team and what happened on the field, although that's great. We want to keep focusing on that. We will as time goes on, but we want to take a look inward and look at ourselves. One of the things that we started at the beginning of this season was the Broadway Shuffle Kool-Aid Factory, of which yours truly serves as the CEO. And some of those, one part of the factory was that we released different flavors every week. And so we want to think about what the best flavor was that we released, not only in name, but also in outcome. So Zyler, I want to come to you first with your nominee for the best Kool-Aid flavor of the year.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty easy for me. The Cyclone Cola, it was tasty. It was delicious. It was rough in the middle. It was really good up front, and it was really good at the end. But That's got to be my nominee, was the Cyclone Cola.
Okay. Clayton?
Yeah, my favorite flavor of the year was the Bearcat Blow Pop. I was a big fan of that one.
Why?
Don't
Tell
just
us,
left
tell
me
us,
speechless, man. Left me speechless. I don't even have words to express it, but yeah, my nominee will be the Bearcat Blow Pop. Brennan, what's yours?
Oh man, the Bearcat! I remember chugging that on the way to a 44-41 win. Man, one that tasted good that turned out to be great. At the time, I was like, "Oh, this Kool-Aid tastes pretty good." I'm a big fan of sangria myself, but the Sun Devil Sangria is my Kool-Aid nominee. At the time, beating Arizona State seemed to be a decent win, good for you early on in the season. Turned out you were playing against a team that should have won a playoff quarterfinal game. So that Sun Devil Sangria, I'm going to enjoy this offseason. I've still got a few cases back in the back in my garage cooler, and I'll pull that out and remembrance every once in a while. So my nominee is the Sun Devil Sangria Kool-Aid flavor.
Man, these are all good nominees. I mean, and they're all fantastic names, aren't they? I mean, the marketing genius behind all of these names is just next level. I mean, it came from the minds of individuals who graduated from the greatest university in the world, Texas Tech. So how could we be surprised? I think I'm going to go with the Cyclone Cola, though. Again, in my mind, it has to be that, because you beat the 11th ranked team in the country on the road, terrible weather in their place, a place that historically you did lose, I think 66 to 6 when Pat was the quarterback, or something, like maybe 66-12.
66
it was bad,
10,
whatever
actually,
it was.
I think was
66
the
to
score
10.
2014.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've tried to erase it from my memory, but that's the one I'm going to have to go with, the Cyclone Cola, just because of the ramifications of that game, and again, the best win of the Joey McGuire era.
I feel like Zyler's nominees have won like 3 awards so far.
Yeah.
I think Zyler's crushing it here so far today.
He's just making good arguments.
He is.
I'm going to host now, so you guys will get an opportunity to win an award here. If there were great Kool-Aid flavors, we would be remiss if we did not note that there were some awful Kool-Aid flavors. We are going to now nominate our worst Kool-Aid flavors of the year. Brennan, I'm going to go to you first for your worst Kool-Aid flavor of the year.
Oh man, dude, this one is as good as I wanted this one to be, in more ways than one. Cougar Juice, man. This one, week 2 against Washington State, the Cougar Juice, we were buying in. All of us bought the hype. We thought we were going to go take care of business against a Pac-2 opponent, and it just came out icky. The whole thing. I mean, Zyler, I know you bought enough to last you through the winter hibernation months, and you're stuck with some Cougar Juice. That had to be the worst flavor of the year. Though it turns out it's our best audience on YouTube, it unfortunately is the worst Kool-Aid flavor. So I'm going to say Cougar Juice as the worst flavor of the year for the Kool-Aid Factory.
That is a very strong contender. Conrad.
Yeah, I'll say these months of the Broadway Shuffle have been some of the best of my life. But also there have been some pretty dark days in there for me. And specifically the two darkest episodes were the Colorado episodes, and got called a lot of names.
Why Pillsbury? Why?
Well, I got called some names because I might have slightly gone after the Colorado internet fans who are, they're not really Colorado fans. They're just buying the Shadur and the Travis and the Shiloh and the Dion hype. And so got called some names that hurt me deeply. As you can see up there, there's Pillsbury back there watching over my shoulder, making sure nobody hurts my feelings again. And so because of my hurt that I experienced in those 2 episodes, I'm going to have to go with Buffalo Brewski being the worst Kool-Aid flavor of the year, because that just hurts my soul. And I don't know that I'll ever get over it until we beat Colorado in a couple of years. So Buffalo Brewski has to be my worst Kool-Aid flavor of the year.
Clayton, what's yours?
Yeah, mine is a pretty obvious choice for me. This flavor was horrific. And that flavor is the Mountain Berry Blast that we had for the Baylor Bears. If you'll remember, this was at the peak of the Kool-Aid Factory going into this game. Whenever we were producing this, we produced hundreds of pallets of the Mountain Berry Blast, and proceeded to fall flat on our face the next week. I'm pretty sure Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory probably has, tons of gallons left of this that people did not end up drinking. So yeah, my worst flavor is the Mountain Berry Blast.
Man, these are all really compelling arguments. I think, I'm torn. Why we decided to mass produce Cougar Juice after we beat an FCS team by 1 point. I mean, that is just really sticking out in my mind.
That's an
But then
operational error.
the hype, when you build up a product and you think it's going to be really good, that one's also really tough. And then the big moment with Big Noon and falling flat on your face against Colorado, these are all really tough. I think I'm going to have to go with Cougar Juice, though. It's an iconic flavor. It's something that I still have in my house. Cougar Juice is going to be my winner for worst Kool-Aid flavor of the year.
Come
Congratulations,
on, man.
Brennan.
How could it's just the best name too? I mean,
Yeah.
The Cougar Juice.
The Cougar
Hey,
Juice.
that was totally off the dome when I came up with that.
yeah, it was.
That was just the first thing I thought of.
It was great, and unfortunately, we won't be able to celebrate with that next year. We don't get another game against Washington State, but I'm sure maybe some Beaver Juice will come up. Conrad,
Juice.
with Oregon State.
Beaver
Maybe we'll
Juice.
replace it with the Beavers. We'll see. But great award there. So, all right, Clayton, we're going to transition a little bit to you now. You're going to be presenting our worst take of the year.
Yeah, so we'll stay on the same wavelength of worst of the year. We do have 4 on this one as well. I'll go ahead and present mine for this. At the beginning of the year, I picked the Big 12 championship, and I picked Utah UCF. I'll give myself a pass for Utah because Cam Rising went down. But I cannot believe I put my faith in a team that was led by KJ Jefferson at quarterback. I should have literally watched any game from his time at Arkansas, and I never would have done that. So, yeah, that's my worst take of the year. Zyler, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, I mean, I think my prediction was UCF West Virginia, so or something like that. It was terrible, but I really think the one that I missed on the worst, and I did a lot of research on this team, was BYU. I thought they were going to be awful, and I think you can make a really, really compelling case that they ended up being the best team in the conference.
Mhm.
I would have picked them probably 15th or 16th, and I think at the end of the year, we're probably playing like the best team in the conference. So I'll own that, hand up. That was a bad take from me over on this end.
Conrad?
Yeah, so not to revisit again the Colorado meltdown in more ways than one, but on that preview episode, I said that Shiloh Sanders only got to play for Colorado because of his dad. We talked about how bad he had been all year, and I made a pretty compelling case of why I thought he wasn't a very good player, and then he proceeded to score a touchdown against us. So I put my foot in my mouth there and kind of made myself look dumb. But so I'd have to say that's my worst take of the year for sure.
Yeah, that's a good candidate. Brennan?
Yeah, man, this one, I remember on our preview show, I was talking about what's going to carry you as a football program this year. And I was looking at our linebacker core, and I was looking at kind of Braylon Lux and CJ and some of these guys. And I thought, man, this defense is going to be really improved this year. And I think they're going to be a big reason why you do win 8 games for the first time since 2009. And unfortunately, I was just not correct there whatsoever. The defense was one of the worst in all of FBS. So I'm going to say that me choosing our defense, keep it in-house a little bit, was probably my worst take of the year. I had plenty of other games and segments I was wrong about, but that one probably was unfortunately one that hurt the most.
Nice. These are all good options. I'm a little torn, but I'm going to have to go with Brennan's take of believing the defense was going to carry us, knowing that our DC got fired and it inspired our donors to put in millions of dollars in the transfer portal, essentially because of how bad the defense was. So I'll go with that one.
I cost us millions. Man. I thought we'd be able to save Cody Campbell and Womble some money. Unfortunately, I was wrong. But hey, I'm excited. I imagine I'll probably give the same take in our next preview show with Lee Hunter and some of these guys coming in. So we'll see what happens.
Brennan, don't sell yourself short. You donated a couple million to the Matador Club.
I don't give
Lee
out.
Hunter was actually, his salary is all because
It was, yeah. Lee, I've got him. Yeah, we had a great conversation. I don't tend to give out my financials, but yes, the Matador Club, that was all me. So it's Cody's just a front. So all right, best take of the year award. This is our final award for the Broadway Shuffle. So we'll take some time on this, and then after this, we'll get into an overall grade and season in review briefly. But Zyler, what is your best take of the year? Where were you the most right?
It feels very good to be vindicated when you take a stand, especially if it's against a team that you think or other people think is going to be good. If I take a consensus pick. Utah's going to be good. And I say, yes, I think Utah's going to be good. You don't really feel that great when they end up being good. Arizona was a preseason top 25 team. I'd looked at the roster. I'd saw what they had on the offensive line. I had heard Brennan talk. I thought, this guy is not going to be a good coach. This team is going to be super stinky. That take was completely vindicated. Arizona was terrible this year. Massive underperformance, probably the most disappointing team in the conference. Maybe Utah, but theirs was injury related. Arizona, they had some defensive injuries, but it was really offensive scheme, defense. It was just bad all around. So that was what I thought was my best take of the year, was that Arizona was going to suck.
That's a good one. You were very correct, and thankfully we were part of them sucking and getting a road win at Arizona. Clayto, who is what was your best take of the year?
Yeah, mine is pretty similar to Zyler's. West Virginia last year went 9-4. They were getting some love in the preseason. I didn't see a lot of people picking them, to win the conference, but they were definitely like middle to upper tier of the conference. A lot of people liked them. They brought back a lot. Mm-hmm. And I did not believe the hype. I can't remember if it was after the Pittsburgh game on one of our shows. I predicted that Neil Brown was going to get fired by the end of the year. And sure enough, he is gone, and Rich Rodriguez is now the coach at West Virginia. So I think that was my most solid take of the year.
Very solid nominee. Conrad?
Yeah, throughout the season and even last offseason, I've been a big Behren Morton believer. And I think my correct take was that Behren Morton has been your best quarterback since Patrick Mahomes. And so I think he proved that this year again with his stat line. And so I think I'm right there. Some people still may disagree with me on that, but I think that Behren Morton is your best quarterback since Patrick Mahomes. And I think he proved it this season.
Yeah, no surprise there that Conrad was bandwagoning Behren Morton from the get-go. And you were correct. I mean, there's a definite argument to be made that Behren Morton was the best quarterback since Pat. So, all right, I'm going to go to nominate one. It's that I thought you would go 8-4 and improve your road record. That's something I said on the preview show. Unfortunately, I thought your defense would be a big reason for that. As I just said, that was a pretty bad take. But nonetheless, you did find a way to win 8 games, which is something that I thought would happen. And that's why I'm picking myself. No, I'm just kidding. That was a good take, but it was a good, it was correct. And I'm happy that at least we were able to find a way to get to 8 wins. But the best take of the year award goes to Mr. Clayton Anderson, with Neil Brown being fired. To predict a coach being fired, stand corrected. And by the way, this goes deep. Clayton, this was not just the only season that Clayton has been trashing Neil Brown. I have heard this for several years now. Clayton has been saying that Neil Brown is not a good coach for a while. He was a decent OC for you back in the day and a former Red Raider, so we appreciate that, but was not qualified or fit necessarily to run the WVU program. So Clayton, great take, man. You were correct early on. And I'm sure, I don't know, is Rich Rodriguez now going to be public enemy number 1 for you? Are you joining the hate there? Is it a West Virginia thing, or was it more of a Neil Brown thing?
Oh, it's definitely not a West Virginia thing. It was Neil Brown specific. I don't really know what I think about Rich Rodriguez going in. I feel like that could go, terribly, or it can go pretty well. So I guess we'll find out pretty soon, I feel like, on that.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse, that it's more of just a Neil Brown thing. But Neil's gone. Clayton wins our best take of the year. So, all right, gentlemen. Hey, first award show ever. There it is. Bravo to all of our winners. We will be, as Conrad said, Micah, we'll be sending you through a carrier pigeon your award. And then CJ, Taj, Kelly, Macho, all these guys that won awards. We are so thankful for your contribution to Texas Tech football this year, and we can't wait to continue this in years to come. But I want to close the show, guys, with more of a season in review grade. This season was weird. It was funky. You almost lose to ACU. Then you get stomped against Washington State. We think, oh boy, then you reel off 4 in a row. And then you lose a heartbreaker to TCU, get stomped by Baylor, but then you go beat Iowa State. This was almost the ultimate roller coaster season to get to 8 wins. And quite frankly, it never really looked that pretty. But nonetheless, you had your first 8-win season in 15 years, and you were 6-3 in conference. So kind of weird to grade this season overall. But Clayton, I'll go to you first. If you had to give a season in review grade, what would it be for Texas Tech? And then I guess you can also answer, what would it be specifically for Joey McGuire, with now knowing, firing a defensive coordinator, losing an OC, having some injuries? How would you grade how Joey managed the team this year as well?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm gonna have a surprising answer for this, and it's not what I would have said if you asked me like right after the West Virginia game. But I'm gonna give this season an A, and that's not because of this season specifically, but more so like what it means for Tech football. You
Mm-hmm.
were able to do something that you hadn't done since 2009, and while that is happening, also be not satisfied with where you're at and inspire this like uh not just NIL but just like unity throughout the donors, the AD, the coach, to go pretty much all in on the portal, recognize this opportunity that you had, uh, moving away from NIL into revenue sharing and kind of like push all your chips on the table. So you were able to kind of like be upset with like where your program's at now, while also, being achieving a record that hadn't been done here in 15 years. And I think it takes a lot, specifically from Joey, to be willing to put that pressure on himself for next year. There's probably a lot of coaches who are satisfied with 8-4 and like try to fill some holes, go 9-3 next year. And with the kind of money that's going in the portal for our team next year, there is a lot of pressure on him, where if he were to take another step back, his seat's definitely going to get at least hotter than it is now. So I think if you look at it and as a whole from 30,000 feet above, I'm giving this season an A.
Yeah.
Nice.
Z?
Yeah, I think this is it's an A minus for me. I went between B plus and A minus because I think you were pretty fortunate in a lot of areas. I don't think your team was a great team, but you still went 8-4. You improved. You beat your Vegas preseason win projection. I don't know that you were a better team than what Vegas thought you were, but you ended up doing a lot better record wise than what I guess not a lot better. You did a half game better than what they thought, and you haven't beaten a win total in a while. So I was glad to see that. I thought you made progress in certain areas. Your young guys got to grow. Your roster should be building for the future. These are going to be always tough transition years. When you had the Matt Wells, the 21 and the 22, and even the COVID class, those are just huge gaps. Those are the guys that should be redshirt seniors and seniors right now. Those guys just don't exist on your roster, and so you're supplementing that with the portal. But it gives your good classes in 23 and 24 another year to develop, and you didn't have to have a 5-7 season or a 6-6 season for that to happen. So I'll go A minus. I really probably should go B plus, but I think Clayton convinced me. I'll go A minus.
I like it. Two A's right away. That's interesting. Conrad, you going to follow it up with 3?
Yeah, I am going to follow it up with 3. I think I'll go A minus, just because I think A, to me, in my mind, would be making the Big 12 championship game. A plus would be playing in the college football playoff. That would mean winning the Big 12. I'm just really pleased. Again, I agree with Zyler. I don't think this team was necessarily great from top to bottom, but you're judged on what, right? You're judged by wins and losses, and you won 8 games, you lost 4 games. You probably could have won 9, maybe 10. I mean, you had a really good season, and I think I use the word progress in the middle of the year. I think you're making progress as a program. I think you absolutely have the buy-in that you need from everyone involved, whether that be Joey, Kirby, all the fans, the donors. I mean, everybody. You've got buy-in. You've got players on this team that are coming back. You've got a quarterback. You've got a middle linebacker. You've got a bunch of transfers that are coming in. You've got young guys that have showed promise. I mean, you've just got a lot of things going for you, even though it didn't necessarily look as pretty as you wanted it to on the field. And you did have a bottom 10 defense in the country statistically. You still won 8 games, you still overachieved, and you still are looking really good in the future. And you're in a position to run the new Big 12. I mean, I really think you are. I think you've got the coach to do it. In terms of Joey's grade, I think there's no better coach in the country for Texas Tech than Joey McGuire. Everybody loves him. He talks a lot, and he believes in his players. But I'm not going to fault anyone for doing that. I want someone who wants to do that. You're never going to say things that are 100% true every single time. So yeah, of course, are we all going to make mistakes in that sense? Absolutely. But a guy that believes in his guys, a guy that cares about this university, and he didn't go to Texas Tech, but like I've said before, it feels like he really cares about this university, this community, and everything that it represents. So for Joey, I think he's absolutely the right guy for the program. And then for the season, I'll go an A minus, and hopefully next year it's an A plus.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm going to go B plus here. And the only caveat on why it's not an A for me is the TCU game. It's not anything else. It's not a Colorado loss. It's not a bowl game loss, or, even a Washington State. It's how you lost to TCU that kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. That if you find a way to win that game, it just sets your season up for an A+ type season, Conrad, like you were saying. So I thought it was a great year. You had your first healthy quarterback playing all 12 games, though he missed some of that TCU game. You had Taj break the rushing record. You went 6-3 in conference. You found a way to kind of solve some of your road woes that you've had previously. But that TCU game specifically, if you found a way to close that out, and go 9-3, you're having a very good chance based off some percentages and playing in the Big 12 title game. And so just for that alone, I'm going to give it a B+. But everything else that you set out to accomplish, though it didn't necessarily look pretty, you did. And that is something to applaud and definitely build off of heading into 2025. Just not enough of what I would have liked to see to give that A grade. So.
Yeah, that's fair, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I just wish we would have all been
didn't.
A's, but
I was about to say I'm glad we're not all A's. That would sound like we're the biggest Kool-Aid drinkers ever.
Yeah, we're not.
We do make the Kool-Aid, though.
We make the Kool-Aid. Yeah, we make it. So, all right. Well, guys, that was a ton of fun. That kind of leaves our football content, our first ever fall doing the Broadway Shuffle, in the rearview mirror. But we will be back in the spring. There's plenty to get into football. It's a never-ending sport now, but we will be shifting our attention to basketball more moving forward. But we thank you for tuning into our show, our first ever Broadway Shuffle Football Awards. We can't wait to see some of your reactions. Please comment who you think should have won. Maybe if you have an award of yourself that you want us to do next time, we would love to hear from you. We appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes to our channel, comments. We love hearing from you guys. So we look forward to that as well. So we will see you guys on Monday next week. For Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad, I'm Brennan, and we'll see you next time on the Broadway Shuffle.